Hello, Public Access presents All About Books with Paul Kinkade.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Paul Kinkade, and this is All About Books, where we read them so you don't have to. Tonight's guest is Kelly Munch with her new book, Hisspitality, How to Deal with Freeloaders. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I have to ask you, have you ever been guilty of being a freeloader?
Yeah, actually, I think we've all been guilty of being some kind of freeloader at some point in our lives, and that's actually how I got inspired to write this book.
And what kind of freeloading were you guilty of, specifically?
I think a lot
Or did
of...
you just cover the whole board?
Yeah, a lot of times we don't know we're freeloading. We try to seek out resources as we can, and we don't realize that we're being...
When did it specifically dawn on you that, my gosh, I'm a freeloader too?
It was like one lack of toilet flush as I'm staying on someone's couch, and they call it couch surfing, and I was just trying to be conservative because we're in a drought, and it turns out people really don't like it. That's really unpleasant to walk into a restroom, and especially as a male, I was staying with a male friend, and it's like he's got to stand up and stare at what I've left for him. So it was pretty disheartening that was something that could actually harm our friendship.
Yeah. And in your book, do you specifically deal with that in a particular chapter?
Oh yeah, that's a particular chapter just completely dedicated to, especially here in California, it's like, if it's brown, flush it down. If it's yellow, let it mellow. That's the chapter that explores that whole scenario.
I see. There's something like 35 chapters in your book. It's quite lengthy, the number of freeloading violations you cover in your book.
It's pretty entertaining, actually, even if you're not concerned with the book as being a self-help. It is extremely entertaining. I mean, we've got a lot of pet freeloaders out there, and that can be really costly for people. And
this is like they say, oh, we're going away for 5 or 6 days. Would you mind feeding Fluffy?
Yeah, that's one instance, or gosh,
Well, you know how you deal with that. You don't feed Fluffy, and when they come back, Fluffy's doing
They never ask you to feed Fluffy ever again.
You know why? No more Fluffy.
A lot of people are really compassionate for animals. They'll have, a cat show up at their doorstep, or a lizard crawl into their house. And, the lizard doesn't really do much. It just hangs out in a house plant, But soon enough, you're realizing, wow, this lizard actually really kind of bothers me. It stares at me a lot, and it's just a total invasion of privacy. They don't, and I think that's what makes people really uncomfortable.
I knew it. I don't like them for the same reason.
Yeah, they don't smell or anything. It's just kind of like all of a sudden you
They
realize...
don't smell? Don't they have noses?
Well, you can't smell them,
I
is
see.
what I mean. It's more of like this, all of a sudden there's a reptilian stare in the room you're feeling, and
but you
it's just
can
a
feel
negative vibe,
Yeah, you can feel
because
it.
the lizard really does know that they're freeloading, and so they're kind of...
Do you think on some animalistic level they feel ashamed to freeload?
Exactly, they're probably like knowing that their time has come to an end, like most freeloaders, and they get to a point where you just get desperate,
kick 'em out?
start acting strange, and kind of explores. There's a realm of a book that also explores like squatters, because in a way that's a phase of freeloading as well.
I see. Well, squatters, that would take you back to the problems with the toilet.
Yeah, it's amazing that like a problem like that can actually, harm your lease agreement.
Well, yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, people would never think of it, but...
well, when the landlord has to come up 4 or 5 times a month to unplug plugs, plumbing...
you're on the second level.
They're not too happy about that.
It's not good.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's sirens. I don't know. Hear it? Yep.
Vier Kelly Munch en la ripka. No más malos carrones.
Welcome back to All About Books, where we read them so you don't have to. I'm Paul Kinkade, and tonight we've got a really good show for you, especially if you have people in your life that take advantage of you one too many times And what do you do about it? Well, I'll tell you what you do about it. That's why we've got our guest on this evening, Kelly Munch, whose book we're celebrating is Hisspitality and How You Deal with Freeloaders. So you have a lot of freeloaders in your life?
No, not anymore. Not since writing this book.
Mm-hmm. What initially prompted you to write the book?
So many just freeloaders. I really wanted to be a kind person, and so I just was like the cat lady, except for people, you know?
Did you feel like a doormat?
A little bit so, yeah. And I kind of accepted it for a while, and then I started seeing a psychotherapist and realizing I had a problem. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to help others. And
did the psychotherapist suggest you write a book as part of your therapy?
No, but it was like that. Uh-huh. I didn't have to pay for the psychotherapist anymore.
Oh.
Wrote my book.
So probably the psychotherapist wouldn't have recommended it then.
Yeah,
because they lost out money.
Now that you mention it, it was like didn't encourage it.
Okay, each chapter in your book deals with a different type of freeloader. Would you care to explain some of the kinds of freeloaders that you have in your book?
There's so many different freeloaders, and I think that's what makes freeloading so confusing for a lot of people.
Okay. But not for you now.
No, and if you read my book, it's great that you mentioned that because, say you have a problem with family freeloaders, then you can just read one chapter of the book. A lot of us don't read the whole book when we buy a book anyways, or a friend gives us a book and we don't make it through.
I'm guilty.
Yeah, and I mean, it is kind of like a self-help in a way, because...
With your experience, do you find more freeloaders are family, friends, or strangers?
There's a wide variety of freeloaders out there. I mean, if you're in an area where you do have a lot of family, then you're going to deal with more family freeloaders. But if you don't have a lot of family in the area, then you go out to make friends, and a lot of the freeloaders that you're dealing with are strangers.
So-called friends. Oh.
Yeah, they well, I mean, it depends because strangers, all friends are strangers at first, right?
I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, and so some people you really connect with and they're friends, and you bond with them, and so you're like, great, friends freeloader now.
Edging in the friendship part to be able to take advantage of you later?
Well, yeah, you find those cases too, and it talks about in chapter 16.
Some people have no shame.
Not at all, and that's all their level of experience in life, but when they're leeching off of you, you got to deal with it in the right way.
So the family, the chapter on the family, you said there's about one chapter. What in your mind is the worst kind of freeloading? The
worst kind of freeloading is like you go to use the milk and it's empty. Who does that? Who puts an empty milk carton in the refrigerator? I mean, that's insanity. Like that's definitely a level of insanity. And so it kind of talks about.
Does it really get you?
It talks about that, because that's very, very deceptive. Someone that you're helping.
Do you grind your teeth?
I mean, you already poured the bowl of Cheerios. And you're so hungry and excited. You cut the banana.
And there's nothing like a dry Cheerio. It gets caught in your throat.
It's terrible, yeah. Oh, it gets caught anywhere in your cheek. You're like, what is that? And it's Cheerio.
Bad molar.
Exactly. I'm not really sure.
So that would be the number one peeve as far as freeloading?
Yeah, I think that just hits you to the core because that's just, it has to do with food. That's like one of our just innate substances that we have to have. It's food.
So in this instance, if they did it over and over again, they would be a serial freeloader.
Yeah, you let it go. Say the milk thing happens, empty milk carton, or there's just a tablespoon left.
Okay.
Like they put it in there like tablespoon left.
What are you
There's
supposed to do with
something
that?
in there. I'm not going to use the tablespoon because then they can't accuse me of using the whole thing. I know how this goes. It talks about it in my book. But what's worse is when they start to do it with like other stuff like condiments or even the Cheerios. Like the box is empty and it's like. It's Exactly, yeah.
And you go to the cupboard, pull it out in your hungry, and the box is too light.
They could have communicated. They could have told you the Cheerios are empty. Yeah. Can you go to the store? It's all about communication. Then the thing with freeloaders is they don't give a shit. They just, use. Don't communicate, any kind of desire to help out.
Well, I understand that you've been taking your book on tour and that you're being widely received in a positive way, because evidently there are a lot of freeloaders out there, and you're helping people to deal with these people effectively.
Yeah, and the thing is too is there's all kinds of levels of freeloaders. You know, like there's a lot of the homeless population that'll approach me and ask me about a certain part of their book, because there's homelessness in freeloading in the book, and it just explores this idea that, you know, they're willing to share when you're out on the street, because that's the name of the game, but then they get their special spot taken, and their cardboard just gets used by these freeloaders, and they, you know, it's really hard.
Well, I understand as part of your benevolence that you've printed off some free copies to distribute among the homeless. Is that correct?
Well, and I don't want to give them any kind of clue that there's, you know, higher class freeloaders, because I don't want to hint at them kind of feeding into this whole
I see. So you've
deal.
you've censored contents.
Exactly.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and give them certain chapters of the
Well,
book.
at this point, you've had a successful tour. You're selling lots of books. You've made most of the national talk shows, and somehow we were able to snag you for this one, and we thank you for that.
Of course.
What next? What next?
You know, we've been exploring international freeloading.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of cultural barriers that we're ready to explore.
Are you looking to have your book translated into other languages?
Yeah, that's actually already in the works.
Is it?
What people are finding fascinating, though, is that there's such a thing as ocean freeloading, which is really difficult.
Ocean freeloading.
Ocean freeloading, and it's
how's that
someone
work?
gets on a boat, and they're on a boat, and you can't get them off because you're in the ocean. So it's very controversial. So we've been exploring that as one of our chapters for our next series.
I see. So you could kick them off the boat.
Yeah,
in shark-infested
and
waters.
that's the thing, is that's happened.
So that's one way to deal with them. Yes. Okay, Kelly. Well, we thank you for coming by this evening.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Wish you all the best in promoting your book and future projects as well. And viewer, thanks for joining us this evening. We'll see you next week. All about books. Bye for now.
Oh, mes amis, you've been watching All About Books with Paul Kinkade. Kelly Munch, her Hisspitality is so useful. Her book can be found at Le Guild Hisspitality Inn, where getting a room is always discouraged. And don't forget to bring Le Doggy Treat. And the No Room at the Inn, where they're not in. They're just not in. It's so symmetrical. Oui? And the Try and Find Me bookstore, where Kelly, she won't sign your book. No, she won't. She won't do it. No, she will not.